The October wind swept through the half-empty parking lot of Pinewood Medical Center in Rosewood, Texas, carrying with it the scent of dried mesquite and distant rain. Sarah Mitchell pushed through the hospital's glass doors at 9:47 p.m., her navy blue scrubs wrinkled from a grueling 12-hour shift. The fluorescent lights behind her cast long shadows across the cracked asphalt as the automatic doors hissed shut, sealing away the antiseptic smell and the constant beeping of monitors that had become the soundtrack of her life. At 32 years old, Sarah had learned to navigate exhaustion like a familiar companion. Her dark blonde hair, pulled back in a practical ponytail, showed streaks of premature grey that she'd stopped bothering to hide. The lines around her green eyes told stories of sleepless nights, some spent caring for critically ill patients, others worrying about mortgage payments and her daughter's upcoming dental appointment. She shifted her worn leather purse higher on her shoulder and fumbled for her car keys, the metal jangling softly in the quiet evening. Rosewood was one of those small Texas towns where everyone knew everyone, where Friday night football games drew larger crowds than the annual 4th of July parade, and where violent crime was something that happened in big cities like Houston or Dallas. Not here. The town's population barely topped 15,000, nestled between sprawling ranch lands and the occasional oil derrick that nodded rhythmically against the endless sky. Sarah had grown up here, left for nursing school in Austin, and returned 5 years ago when her marriage to David Mitchell fell apart. Now, she raised their 8-year-old daughter Emma in the same house where she'd spent her own childhood, 3 blocks from the elementary school and 2 miles from the hospital. The parking lot was nearly deserted at this hour. Most of the day shift had left hours ago, and the skeleton crew working nights parked closer to the entrance. Sarah's 10-year-old Honda Civic sat in the far corner under a flickering streetlight that the maintenance department had been promising to fix for 3 weeks. She'd meant to arrive early enough to get a better spot, but Emma's morning meltdown over mismatched socks had derailed their schedule, and by the time Sarah dropped her daughter at her mother's house and rushed to work, only the distant spots remained. Her white sneakers scuffed against the pavement as she walked, each step echoing in the stillness. A semi-truck rumbled past on Highway 71, its taillights disappearing into the darkness beyond the hospital grounds. Sarah mentally reviewed her shift. Mrs. Henderson in room 304 had finally stabilized after her cardiac episode. The new doctor had botched an IV insertion and Sarah had to redo it. And the teenage boy in the ER with the broken arm had cried for his mother in a way that reminded her of Emma. She needed to pick up Emma by 7 tomorrow morning, which meant she had exactly 9 hours to sleep, shower, and somehow transform back into a functional human being. The Civic's silver paint looked grey under the dying streetlight. Sarah was 20 feet away when she noticed the dark van parked 3 spaces over. A vehicle she didn't recognize, windowless except for the front cab, with mud splattered across the license plate. Something cold twisted in her stomach, an instinct honed by years of night shifts and true crime podcasts Emma's father used to mock her for listening to. She tightened her grip on her keys, threading them between her fingers the way the hospital's security seminar had taught them last spring. Keep walking, get to the car, lock the doors, drive away. But she'd only taken 2 more steps when 3 figures emerged from behind the van. They moved with purpose, spreading out to block her path, 2 coming from the left, 1 circling around to cut off her retreat toward the hospital. Sarah's heart slammed against her ribs. The nearest man was tall and lean, wearing a black hoodie despite the mild October temperature. His face was partially obscured by a bandana, but she could see his eyes, cold and calculating in the dim light. The second was shorter and stockier, his hands shoved in the pockets of a stained denim jacket. The third hung back slightly, younger than the others, his movements jerky with either nerves or something chemical. "Keys and purse," the tall one said flatly. His voice carried a hard edge, devoid of the drawling friendliness that characterized most Rosewood residents. "Phone 2. Right now." Sarah's mouth went dry. Her mind raced through options. Scream, but who would hear her? Run, but where? The hospital doors were 40 yards away, and she'd never make it in her exhausted state. Fight. With what? She was 5'6" and hadn't been to the gym since Emma was a toddler. "Okay," she managed, her voice shaking. "Okay, just take it. I won't fight you." She started to extend her purse, but the stocky one moved faster than she expected, grabbing her wrist with crushing force. Pain shot up her arm and she cried out, dropping her keys. They clattered across the asphalt. "Shut up," he hissed, his breath reeking of tobacco and beer. "You scream again, it gets worse." The tall one bent to retrieve her keys while the younger man finally spoke, his words rapid and anxious. "We should go, man. Just grab it and go. This is taking too long." "Shut your mouth, Tyler," the stocky one snapped, still gripping Sarah's wrist. He yanked her closer, and now she could see his face clearly, maybe 45, with deep-set eyes and a scar running from his left eyebrow to his cheek. "Check her pockets." Terror flooded Sarah's system as the tall one moved toward her, his hands reaching for her scrubs. This wasn't just a robbery anymore. The realization hit her like ice water. They weren't just taking her things. They were going to take her. "Please," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Please, I have a daughter. She's 8. She needs—" I said, "Shut up." The scarred man jerked her arm viciously and Sarah stumbled. Her purse fell, its contents spilling across the ground. Her wallet, Emma's school picture, loose change, a stick of gum. The tall one grabbed her other arm, and together they started dragging her toward the van. Sarah's training kicked in, the voice of her self-defense instructor from that long-ago seminar, cutting through the panic. "Make noise. Be difficult. Do not let them move you to a second location." She opened her mouth to scream, and the younger one, Tyler, stepped forward and slapped his hand over her mouth. His palm was rough and dirty, tasting of salt and grime. Sarah twisted violently, her sneakers scraping uselessly against the pavement as they hauled her toward the van's open side door. "This is how I die," she thought with crystalline clarity. "This is how Emma becomes an orphan." Then she heard it. A sound that would later replay in her dreams in vivid detail. The deep, rumbling growl of motorcycle engines, multiple of them, growing louder. The 3 men froze for a split second, their heads turning toward Highway 71. Headlights swept across the parking lot entrance, bright and accusatory. "Cops?" Tyler's voice cracked with fear. "No," the tall one said, but his grip on Sarah loosened slightly. "Not cops." 6 motorcycles roared into the parking lot in a tight formation, their engines creating a wall of sound that shattered the night's stillness. They weren't police bikes. These were Harleys and Indians, chromed and powerful, ridden by men and women in leather vests that caught the streetlight. Sarah couldn't process details through her terror, but she saw patches, emblems, and determined faces beneath helmets. The lead rider, a man with broad shoulders and a salt and pepper beard, pulled directly into the space between Sarah and the van. He killed his engine, but left his headlight blazing, illuminating the scene like a stage. The other 5 fanned out, creating a semicircle that effectively trapped the would-be kidnappers against the van. "Let her go." The leader's voice was deep and absolutely calm. The kind of calm that comes from men who've faced worse than parking lot criminals. He swung his leg over his bike with practiced ease, standing to his full height, easily 6'3". "Let her go right now and maybe you walk out of here with all your teeth." The scarred man's grip on Sarah tightened instead. "This ain't your business. Get back on your bikes and ride away." "See, that's where you're wrong," the leader said, taking a step forward. The other riders dismounted now, moving with coordinated precision that spoke of practice and familiarity. "When we see 3 pieces of trash putting their hands on a woman who's just trying to get home after work, that becomes our business." A woman among the motorcyclists stepped forward, her long auburn hair braided down her back. Her vest bore the same patch as the others, an iron skull with wings, and words Sarah couldn't quite read in the dim light. "You've got about 5 seconds before this gets very bad for you," she called out. "I've already called 911. Deputies are en route." Sarah felt the scarred man's indecision in the trembling of his hands. Tyler had backed away entirely, pressing himself against the van. The tall one looked between the motorcyclists and the exit, calculating odds. "Martinez, don't," Tyler pleaded. "These are Iron Riders. We're dead if—" "I said shut up!" The scarred man, Martinez, suddenly shoved Sarah forward. She stumbled and fell hard, her palms scraping across the asphalt. The leader of the motorcyclists moved instantly, catching her before she could fall completely. His hands were steady and careful, helping her to her feet with unexpected gentleness. "You're okay," he said quietly, his brown eyes meeting hers with an intensity that somehow cut through her panic. "You're okay now, get behind me." Martinez and the tall one exchanged a glance, then bolted, but not toward freedom. They ran directly at the line of motorcyclists, apparently hoping to break through by force. It was a catastrophically bad decision. The leader moved Sarah aside with one hand and met Martinez's charge with his shoulder, using the man's momentum against him. Martinez went down hard, the breath exploding from his lungs. The tall one swung at a stocky rider with a graying ponytail, who simply ducked and delivered 2 precise punches to the man's ribs and jaw. He dropped like a felled tree. Tyler tried to run toward the hospital, but the auburn-haired woman stuck out her boot at exactly the right moment. He sprawled face first across the pavement, and before he could recover, she had her knee in his back and his arms pinned. "Stay down," she ordered, her voice carrying absolute authority. "Stay down or I'll make you stay down." The entire confrontation lasted maybe 30 seconds. By the time Sarah's breathing started to slow from hyperventilation to merely rapid, all 3 attackers were subdued. Martinez held by 2 of the riders with his face pressed against the van's side panel, the tall one groaning on the ground with the ponytailed man's boot on his chest, and Tyler sobbing into the asphalt under the woman's careful control. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. The leader turned back to Sarah, who had sunk to her knees beside her scattered belongings. Her hands shook violently as she tried to gather her things, Emma's picture, her wallet, her keys. She couldn't seem to make her fingers work properly. "Hey," he said softly, kneeling beside her. "Easy. Just breathe. You're safe." "I thought—" Sarah's voice broke. "I thought they were going to, but they didn't. You're okay." He picked up Emma's picture, looking at it for a moment before handing it to her. "Pretty girl. Your daughter?" Sarah nodded, clutching the photo to her chest. Tears flowed freely now, the adrenaline crash hitting her in waves. "Emma, she's 8. She's with my mother. I need to. You need to sit still for a minute and let yourself shake. It's normal. You're coming down from a massive adrenaline dump." He gathered the rest of her belongings efficiently, placing them back in her purse. "I'm Marcus Thompson. That's Diana Cooper, who's sitting on that punk, and the big guy with the ponytail is Jack Brennan. The others are Rachel Foster, Tommy Valdez, and Chris Henderson. We're the Iron Riders Motorcycle Club local chapter." "Sarah," she managed. "Sarah Mitchell." "Well, Sarah Mitchell, you did good. You stayed aware, you fought back when you had to, and you're alive. That's a win in my book." Marcus's voice was steady and reassuring, the voice of someone accustomed to dealing with crisis situations. 2 Rosewood Sheriff's Department cruisers screamed into the parking lot, their red and blue lights painting everything in alternating colors. 4 deputies emerged with weapons drawn, shouting commands. Marcus slowly raised his hands, staying exactly where he was. "Deputies, we're the ones who called it in," he called clearly. 3 suspects attempted to abduct this woman. We intervened and restrained them. All 3 are secured. The victim is here and she needs medical attention. The lead deputy, a stocky man Sarah recognized as Deputy Frank Morris, took in the scene with experienced eyes. His weapon lowered slightly as he processed the tableau. "Marcus, that you?" "Evening, Frank. Yeah, it's me." "Of course it is." Frank holstered his weapon and approached, his three colleagues spreading out to secure the suspects. "Can't have a Thursday night without you boys and girls sticking your noses in something. What happened here?" Sarah found her voice, though it still trembled. "They tried to kidnap me. These people, the motorcyclists, they saved me. They stopped them." Frank knelt beside her, his round face softening. "Sarah Mitchell, Nancy Mitchell's daughter." "Yes," she whispered. "All right, honey, let's get you checked out. Did they hurt you?" His voice shifted into professional gentleness. "Do you need a paramedic?" Sarah looked at her scraped palms, the bruises already forming on her wrists where the men had grabbed her. Her knees throbbed from hitting the pavement. "I'm okay, just scraped. I'm a nurse, You can sit still and let us take care of you for once," Frank interrupted kindly. He spoke into his radio, requesting an ambulance and additional units. Then he looked at Marcus. "Give me the short version." Marcus stood, keeping his movements slow and visible. "We were heading back from a charity ride in Austin, coming up 71. Jack saw something off in the parking lot as we passed. Looked like a struggle. We pulled in and found these three trying to force Miss Mitchell into that van. We intervened, restrained them, and Diana called 911. Whole thing maybe took 2-3 minutes from when we entered the lot." Frank nodded, making notes in a small pad. "Any weapons?" "The tall one had a knife in his back pocket," Jack rumbled, his voice surprisingly high for such a large man. "Folding blade, maybe 4 inches. Didn't get a chance to pull it. Martinez there," he indicated the scarred man with his chin, "has something in his right jacket pocket that feels like a gun, but I didn't confirm. Didn't want to compromise your search." "Smart." Frank moved toward Martinez, who was now handcuffed by one of the other deputies. "Roberto Martinez, been a while. Thought you were doing a stretch in Huntsville. Got out 6 months ago," Martinez muttered, "and immediately went back to your old habits. Brilliant." Frank shook his head in disgust. He gestured to his colleagues. "Search them, secure any weapons, read them their rights. I want a full inventory." Sarah watched as the scene unfolded with surreal clarity. The tall one was identified as Connor Blake, wanted on 3 outstanding warrants in Harris County. Tyler was Tyler Simmons, 19 years old, who kept crying and insisting he hadn't wanted to hurt anyone. A search of the van revealed zip ties, duct tape, a stun gun, and a length of rope, the tools of predators. "This wasn't their first time," Marcus said quietly to Frank. "That's a kidnapping kit. They've done this before or were planning to do a lot worse." Frank's expression darkened. "We've had 2 missing persons cases in the last 4 months, women who vanished from parking lots in surrounding counties. Austin PD's been working a task force." He looked at Sarah with something like pity. "You got lucky tonight, Sarah. Very, very lucky." Lucky. The word seemed absurd given the circumstances, but Sarah understood what he meant. She'd been seconds away from becoming another statistic, another missing face on a poster. Emma would have been another little girl whose mother never came home. The ambulance arrived, and despite Sarah's protest that she was fine, the paramedics, including her co-worker James Riley, insisted on examining her. James's usual jokes fell away when he saw the state she was in, replaced by gentle efficiency as he cleaned her scraped palms and checked her vitals. "Blood pressure's elevated, but that's expected," he said, wrapping her palms in gauze. "Bruising on your wrists, minor contusions on your knees. You're going to be sore tomorrow, Sarah. Take some ibuprofen and try to rest." "I have to work tomorrow," she said automatically. "No, you don't. You're going to call in. This is traumatic shock, and you need recovery time." James's brown eyes were firm behind his glasses. "Doctor's orders, and I'll make sure Nancy knows if you try to come in." Marcus had been standing a respectful distance away, giving her space, but clearly staying until the situation was fully resolved. Now he approached again, pulling a card from his vest pocket. "Ms. Mitchell, this has my number. If you need anything, if you're scared, if you need a ride somewhere, if you want someone to check your house, you call, day or night." Sarah took the card with her bandaged hands. It was simple black with silver lettering. Marcus Thompson, President, Iron Riders MC, Rosewood, Chapter. Below that, a phone number. "Why?" she asked. "Why did you help me?" Marcus looked genuinely puzzled by the question. "Because you needed help. That's reason enough." He glanced at his fellow riders who were giving statements to the other deputies. "We might look rough around the edges, but we're not criminals. Most of us are vets. We do charity work, escort abused kids to court, raise money for veterans' causes. When we see someone in trouble, we step up. Simple as that." "Thank you," Sarah whispered. The words felt inadequate for saving her life, but they were all she had. "Thank you so much. You take care of yourself and that little girl." Marcus nodded to her and walked back to his motorcycle. Within minutes, after Frank finished taking their statements and contact information, the Iron Riders fired up their engines. The sound that had seemed so ominous during the attack now felt strangely comforting. The roar of protection, of intervention, of people who gave a damn. They pulled out of the parking lot in formation, disappearing into the night as quickly as they'd appeared. Frank helped Sarah to her feet. "Come on. I'll have one of my deputies drive you home. We'll need a full statement tomorrow, but for tonight, you need to be with your family." "My car," Sarah protested weakly. "We'll have it brought to your place tomorrow. Right now, you're in no condition to drive." Frank's voice left no room for argument. Deputy Lisa Chen, a young woman Sarah recognized from Emma's school events, drove her home in companionable silence. When they pulled up to the small blue house with the white picket fence that needed painting, Sarah's mother was already on the porch, Emma visible through the front window in her pajamas. "Frank called," Nancy Mitchell said by way of greeting, pulling Sarah into a fierce hug the moment she stepped out of the cruiser. "Oh, baby, oh, Sarah, I'm okay, Mom. I promise, I'm okay." But saying it made it less true somehow. And Sarah found herself crying again, great heaving sobs that shook her entire body. Emma came running out, her blonde pigtails bouncing, her eyes wide with concern. "Mommy? Mommy, why are you crying?" Sarah knelt and pulled her daughter close, breathing in the scent of strawberry shampoo and childhood innocence. "I'm okay, sweetheart. I just had a scary night, but I'm okay now. Did you get hurt at the hospital?" Emma's small hands touched the bandages on Sarah's palms with infinite care. "Something like that, but I'm home now, and that's what matters." Nancy ushered them all inside, thanking Deputy Chen profusely. The house smelled like chocolate chip cookies, Nancy's solution to everything, and the TV was paused on Emma's favorite movie. Sarah sank onto the couch, Emma curling against her side, and finally let herself feel the full weight of what had almost happened. She'd been seconds away from vanishing, seconds away from Emma growing up without a mother, seconds away from becoming another unsolved case. But 6 strangers on motorcycles had changed that trajectory. 6 people who'd had no obligation to stop, no reason to risk themselves, had seen someone in trouble and acted. Sarah looked at the business card still clutched in her bandaged hand. Marcus Thompson, Iron Riders MC, heroes came in unexpected packages. Sarah didn't sleep that night. She tried, went through all the motions of tucking Emma into bed, changing into her own pajamas, lying down in the darkness of her bedroom, but every time she closed her eyes, she was back in that parking lot. She felt Martinez's crushing grip on her wrist, smelled Tyler's unwashed hand over her mouth, saw the van's open door waiting to swallow her whole. At 3:17 a.m., she gave up and went to the kitchen. The house was quiet, except for the humming of the refrigerator and the occasional creak of old wood settling. Nancy had gone home around midnight after extracting promises that Sarah would call if she needed anything. Now, Sarah sat at the small kitchen table with a mug of chamomile tea she wasn't drinking, staring at Marcus Thompson's business card. Her phone buzzed. A text from her supervisor at the hospital. Heard what happened. Take all the time you need. Let me know when you're ready to come back. Another from her ex-husband David, who lived in Dallas now with his new wife. Nancy told me. Are you okay? Is Emma okay? I can come down if you need me to. Sarah appreciated the offer, but knew it would create more complications than comfort. She and David had managed to build a functional co-parenting relationship after their divorce, but it worked best with 100 miles of distance between them. We're fine, she texted back. Emma doesn't know details, just that I had a scary night. I'll call you later. She scrolled through local news sites on her tablet and found the story already posted on the Rosewood Gazette's website. 3 arrested in attempted abduction at hospital. 3 men were arrested Thursday night after attempting to kidnap a local nurse in the Pinewood Medical Center parking lot. The victim, whose name is being withheld, was rescued by members of the Iron Riders Motorcycle Club, who witnessed the attack in progress. Roberto Martinez, 45, Connor Blake, 38, and Tyler Simmons, 19, all of Houston, face charges including attempted kidnapping, aggravated assault, and possession of burglary tools. Martinez and Blake have extensive criminal records. The victim sustained minor injuries and was treated at the scene. Rosewood Sheriff Frank Morris praised the Iron Riders for their intervention. These citizens did exactly what they should have done. They saw someone in danger and took appropriate action to protect her while calling law enforcement, Morris stated. Their quick thinking likely saved this woman's life. The investigation is ongoing, with potential connections to missing persons cases in surrounding counties. Sarah set the tablet down, her hands shaking again. The words, likely saved this woman's life, kept echoing in her head. She'd always considered herself competent, capable, someone who handled emergencies with calm efficiency at work. But last night had stripped away that confidence, revealing how vulnerable she really was. A noise from the hallway made her jump, tea sloshing over the rim of her mug. But it was only Emma, padding into the kitchen in her unicorn pajamas, clutching her stuffed rabbit. Can't sleep either? Sarah asked, forcing her voice to sound normal. Emma climbed into the chair beside her. I had a bad dream. You were gone, and I couldn't find you. Sarah's heart broke a little. I'm right here, baby. I'm not going anywhere. Grandma said some bad men tried to hurt you, but motorcycle people saved you, like superheroes. Leave it to Nancy to tell Emma something despite Sarah asking her not to. But her mother had never been good at keeping secrets, especially from her only grandchild. Sarah sighed and pulled Emma closer. Sort of like superheroes, yeah? They're just regular people who help others. Can I meet them? Emma's blue eyes, David's eyes, were wide with interest. To say thank you? Maybe someday. Sarah kissed the top of her daughter's head. Right now, though, we need to try to get some sleep. You have school tomorrow, and I have the day off. You never take days off. I do now. They went back to bed together, Emma curled in Sarah's arms the way she used to when she was younger. This time, Sarah did sleep, though her dreams were fragmented and uneasy. Parking lots and vans and motorcycle engines roaring through darkness. Friday morning arrived with autumn sunshine and the sound of Emma's alarm clock playing pop music too loudly. Sarah got her daughter ready for school on autopilot, making breakfast, packing lunch, signing a permission slip for a field trip. Nancy arrived at 7:30 to drive Emma to school, giving Sarah a long, assessing look. You look terrible, Nancy said bluntly. She was 63, retired from teaching, and had never mastered the art of polite lies. Thanks, Mom. Really needed that today. I mean, you look like someone who survived a trauma, which you did. Nancy's voice softened. Have you thought about talking to someone? A counselor? It's been 12 hours, which is 12 hours of replaying it in your head. Don't wait until it becomes PTSD, Sarah. Nip it in the bud. Nancy had strong opinions about mental health, probably from 30 years of teaching teenagers. Promise me you'll at least think about it. I promise. After they left, Sarah showered for the second time, scrubbing her skin until it was red, trying to wash away the feeling of hands grabbing her. The bruises on her wrists had darkened overnight, purple and yellow fingerprints that made her stomach turn. She covered them with long sleeves, despite the warm October day. Deputy Chen arrived at 9 with Sarah's car, accompanied by another officer. "All checked out and cleaned," she said, handing over the keys. "We processed it last night for evidence. Nothing remarkable except your dropped items." "Thank you." Sarah accepted the keys, then hesitated. "Deputy Chen..." "Lisa, please." "Lisa, what would have happened if those motorcyclists hadn't shown up?" Lisa's expression grew grim. "Honestly, based on what we found in that van and Martinez's history, nothing good. Probably human trafficking. There's a network operating through Texas, women and girls disappearing, being moved across state lines. We think Martinez and Blake were working as scouts or recruiters for a larger operation." The room tilted slightly. Sarah sat down hard on her porch steps. "Oh God, but that didn't happen," Lisa said firmly, sitting beside her. "You're here. You're safe. And those three are going away for a very long time. Focus on that." After Lisa left, Sarah tried to occupy herself with normal tasks: laundry, dishes, organizing Emma's closet. But her mind kept drifting back to the parking lot, to the what-ifs that spiraled into increasingly dark scenarios. By noon, she was pacing her living room, feeling like her skin was too tight. She picked up Marcus Thompson's business card for the dozenth time, turning it over in her hands. On the back, he'd written in neat block letters, "Seriously, call if you need anything." Before she could second-guess herself, Sarah dialed the number. He answered on the second ring. "Marcus Thompson. Hi, this is Sarah Mitchell. From last night? I know who you are, Sarah. How are you holding up?" The genuine concern in his voice nearly undid her. "I don't know. Not great. I'm sorry, I don't even know why I called. You gave me your number and You needed to hear a voice that isn't your own thought spiraling. I get it. What you're feeling is completely normal." Background noise suggested he was somewhere busy. Voices, the clink of tools. "You got someone with you?" "No. My daughter's at school. My mom went home. I'm just sitting here losing my mind a little bit." "Okay. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to get in your car and drive to Rosie's Diner on Main Street. You know it?" "Yes, but..." "No buts. You need to get out of your house because you're just sitting there replaying everything. I'll meet you there in 20 minutes. We'll get some lunch, talk if you want to talk, or just sit quietly if you don't. But you need to not be alone right now. I shouldn't impose..." "Sarah, I'm going to say this once and I need you to hear it. You survived something terrible. You're allowed to need support. You're allowed to reach out. And I offered because I meant it, not out of obligation. Now get your keys and meet me at Rosie's." The gentle command in his voice reminded Sarah of her own voice when she was dealing with panicking patients. Calm, firm, leaving no room for argument. It was oddly comforting. "Okay," she said. 20 minutes. Rosie's Diner was a Rosewood institution, a chrome and vinyl throwback that served breakfast all day and the best chicken fried steak in 3 counties. Sarah arrived first, sliding into a corner booth that gave her a view of the door. Old habits. She'd never sit with her back to an entrance again. Marcus arrived exactly 20 minutes after their phone call, riding up on his Harley and parking it prominently in front of the diner's large windows. Without his helmet, Sarah could see him more clearly than she had in the chaos of last night. He was probably mid-40s, with deep laugh lines around his brown eyes and silver threading through his dark hair and beard. He wore jeans, boots, and a plain black t-shirt under his leather vest, which was covered in patches and pins she couldn't decipher from a distance. He spotted her immediately and headed over, his walk confident but not aggressive. "Good, you came. I was half worried you'd chicken out." "I almost did," Sarah admitted, "twice. But you didn't. That's what counts." He slid into the opposite side of the booth. "Have you ordered?" "Just coffee. Not eating is normal too, but you should try. Your body's been through hell and needs fuel." Marcus flagged down a waitress Sarah recognized, Diane Carpenter, who'd graduated a few years ahead of her. "2 of the blue plate specials, Diane, and keep the coffee coming." "Marcus Thompson, as I live and breathe," Diane said, grinning. "Haven't seen you in here in a month. You been avoiding me?" "Been busy with club business. How's your son doing? Army, right?" "Stationed in Germany now. Loves it. And I heard what you boys and Diana did last night. Whole town's talking about it." Diane's expression turned serious as she looked at Sarah. "Sarah Mitchell, honey, I'm so glad you're okay. That must have been terrifying." "It was," Sarah said quietly. "Thank you." After Diane left, Sarah studied Marcus for a moment. The whole town's talking? Small town, big news. By tomorrow, the story will be that we rode in like the cavalry with guns blazing, probably fought off 20 armed men, and carried you away on a white horse. Marcus's mouth quirked into a half smile. Truth is usually less dramatic than people want it to be. It was pretty dramatic from where I was standing. Fair point. He leaned back in the booth, his posture relaxed. "So, you want to talk about it, or you want to talk about anything else?" Sarah wrapped her hands around her coffee mug, feeling the warmth seep into her bruised wrists. "Can I ask you something?" "Shoot. Last night you said most of you are veterans, are you?" Marcus nodded. "Army. 2 tours in Afghanistan, 1 in Iraq. Came home in 2018, tried to slot back into normal life, and failed spectacularly at it for a while. The club helped me find purpose again." "What do you do? For work, I mean." "I own an auto shop out on Route 17, Thompson's Custom and Repair. Mostly I fix motorcycles, but I'll work on anything with an engine. Jack, the big guy from last night, works with me. Diana's a paralegal, Rachel's a teacher, Tommy's with the fire department, and Chris runs a construction company. We're just regular people who happen to ride together." Their food arrived, comfort food, in generous portions. Sarah picked at her mashed potatoes, managing a few bites. Marcus ate steadily, not watching her but clearly aware of her. "You asked why we helped you," Marcus said after a while. "Honestly, I wish I could tell you it was pure altruism, but there's a selfish component too. When I came back from deployment, I struggled. PTSD, nightmares, the whole deal. Couldn't hold down relationships, couldn't see the point of much. Then I found the club, found a way to channel everything into something positive. Helping people gives me purpose. Makes me feel like maybe all the things I did and saw overseas weren't for nothing." Sarah set down her fork. "That's not selfish, that's just being human." "Maybe. Point is, we all got our reasons for doing what we do. Some of us are looking for redemption, some are looking for community, some just like riding bikes and thought the charity work sounded good. But we're united in the belief that we watch out for people who can't watch out for themselves. Like me last night. Like you last night. Though from what Frank told me, you fought back pretty hard before we got there. Bruises on those bastards to prove it. I didn't feel like I fought back. I felt like a victim." Marcus shook his head. "You survived. That takes fight. Don't diminish that." They talked for over an hour about Rosewood, about Emma. Marcus had a grown daughter in Houston he saw twice a month. About the strange liminal space Sarah found herself in, where the world looked the same, but everything felt different. He didn't offer platitudes or empty reassurances. He just listened and occasionally shared his own experiences with trauma and recovery. When the check came, Marcus paid despite Sarah's protests. Consider it part of the service. Besides, you'll get the next one. The next one? You're going to need to get out of your head a lot over the next few weeks. I'm volunteering as tribute. His tone was light, but his eyes were serious. I mean it, Sarah. Trauma is a sneaky bastard. It'll tell you to isolate, to avoid, to pretend you're fine. Don't listen to it. Reach out to me, to your mom, to a therapist. Please tell me you're going to see a therapist. My mom suggested the same thing. Your mom's a smart woman. PTSD is real, and it's treatable, but you gotta be proactive. Marcus stood, pulling on his vest. I'm around this weekend if you need anything. Club meeting tomorrow night, but other than that, I'm free. Sarah stood too, feeling steadier than she had all day. Thank you, Marcus, really, for everything. Stop thanking me. Just take care of yourself. She watched him ride away, the Harley's engine fading into the afternoon traffic. Then she drove to pick up Emma from school, feeling like maybe, just maybe, she could navigate whatever came next. The weekend passed in a blur of Emma's needs and Nancy's hovering. David called Saturday morning and talked to Emma for an hour, then to Sarah for another 30 minutes, offering again to come down. Sarah declined, but appreciated that he cared enough to offer repeatedly. Sunday afternoon, Sarah was folding laundry when her phone rang. Frank Morris. Sarah, got some news for you. Wanted you to hear it from me before it hits the press. Martinez and Blake are being charged federally. FBI's taking over the case. Turns out they're connected to that trafficking ring I mentioned. Your case is what broke it open. Sarah sank onto the couch. What does that mean? Means those two aren't getting out. Ever. Federal prosecutors are building a case that links them to at least 6 kidnappings across Texas and Louisiana. You being willing to testify, if you're willing, could be the keystone that brings down the entire operation. Testify? In court? Eventually, yeah. Probably not for months. And I know it's scary, but think about it this way. You can help make sure they never do to anyone else what they tried to do to you. Sarah thought about those zip ties in the van, the duct tape, the rope. She thought about 6 other women, maybe more, who hadn't been as lucky as her, who hadn't had 6 motorcyclists happen to drive by at the exact right moment. I'll testify, she said, whatever you need. Good woman, I'll keep you updated. After hanging up, Sarah realized her hands weren't shaking. The news that should have terrified her, that she'd have to face Martinez and Blake again, even in a courtroom, instead made her feel something unexpected, powerful. She'd been a victim Thursday night, but now she could be something more. She could be the person who helped stop them. Sarah picked up her phone and texted Marcus. Thank you again for lunch Friday. Emma wants to meet you and the others who helped me. Would you and your club be interested in coming to dinner next week? Nothing fancy, just pizza and gratitude. His response came within minutes. We'd be honored. Let me check with the others and get back to you. How are you doing? Better, Sarah typed. And for the first time since Thursday night, it was true. The following Tuesday evening, Sarah's small house was filled with the scent of pepperoni pizza and nervous energy. Emma had insisted on making a thank you banner that now hung crookedly across the living room, decorated with glitter and marker drawings of motorcycles. Nancy had helped clean the house to within an inch of its life, then tactfully made herself scarce, taking her bridge club meeting as an excuse to give Sarah space. Sarah checked her appearance in the bathroom mirror for the 3rd time. Dark jeans, a soft blue sweater that hid the fading bruises on her wrists, minimal makeup. She looked tired. The nightmares had continued, though they were less frequent but presentable. Emma bounced around the living room in her favorite dress, the purple one with sunflowers. Mummy, when are they coming? Are they bringing their motorcycles? Can I see them? Soon, baby. And yes, I imagine they'll ride their bikes. We'll see if you can look at them. Sarah glanced at the clock. 6:23 p.m. Marcus had said 6:30. At precisely 6:29, the rumble of motorcycle engines announced their arrival. Emma squealed and ran to the window, pressing her face against the glass. "They're here. There's so many." Sarah opened the front door to find not just Marcus and the 5 who'd been there that night, but 2 additional riders she didn't recognize. They were parking their bikes along the curb, taking care not to block the neighbors' driveways. Marcus dismounted first, carrying a bouquet of sunflowers that made Sarah's eyes prickle with unexpected tears. "Evening," he said, climbing the porch steps. "Hope you don't mind. Couple other members heard about dinner and wanted to come. They helped with the fundraising for the charity ride we were coming back from that night." "Of course not. The more the merrier." Sarah accepted the flowers. "These are beautiful. Diana picked them out, said roses were too formal." He smiled as Emma appeared in the doorway, suddenly shy despite her earlier excitement. "You must be Emma," Marcus said, crouching down to her level. "Your mom's told me a lot about you. That's a great banner you made." "It took me 2 whole hours," Emma said proudly, "and Grandma helped with the glitter parts because Mommy says glitter is the devil's craft supply." Marcus laughed, a warm, genuine sound. "Your grandma sounds wise. Want to meet everyone?" The introductions happened on the front lawn, neighbors peeking through curtains at the unusual gathering. Diana Cooper, the auburn-haired paralegal, immediately swept Emma into a conversation about her favorite subjects in school. Jack Brennan, the enormous man with the ponytail, proved surprisingly gentle when Emma asked if he was a giant. Rachel Foster, a petite woman with kind eyes, taught 5th grade and knew Emma's teacher. Tommy Valdez, built like a fire plug with an infectious grin, worked at the fire station Emma's class had visited last month. Chris Henderson, quieter than the others, ran the construction company that had built the new wing on Emma's school. The 2 additional members were introduced as Beth Richardson, a nurse at the rival hospital in the next town over, and Michael Torres, who owned a landscaping business. Both were maybe 30, clearly newer to the club based on how they deferred to the others. "A nurse?" Sarah said to Beth. "Small world." "Trauma unit," Beth confirmed. "When Marcus mentioned what happened, I had to come. I've treated too many victims who weren't as lucky as you." They filed inside, the house suddenly feeling much smaller with 8 adults and 1 excited 8-year-old. Sarah had ordered enough pizza to feed an army, 4 large pies with various toppings, and set out paper plates and napkins. Emma appointed herself official drink taker, asking each person what they wanted with serious concentration. "You've got a great kid," Diana said quietly to Sarah in the kitchen while they retrieved sodas from the fridge. "Confident, articulate. You're doing something right. Most days, I feel like I'm failing spectacularly, but thank you." Sarah glanced into the living room where Marcus was showing Emma pictures on his phone. His daughter Emily, at Emma's age apparently. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Marcus said you called 911 that night. You stayed so calm. How?" Diana's expression grew thoughtful. "Training, mostly. I work with abuse survivors through my law firm, helping them get protective orders, navigate the legal system. I've seen a lot of bad situations. You learn to compartmentalize, to push emotion aside and focus on what needs to happen. But afterward," she met Sarah's eyes. "Afterward, I went home and shook for an hour. It was close, Sarah. Too close. I'm just glad we were there." Dinner was chaotic in the best way. Emma insisted on sitting between Marcus and Jack, peppering them with questions about motorcycles, the military, and whether they'd ever met any superheroes. The adults talked over each other, sharing stories, some funny, some serious. Tommy told about a rescue call where a cat had somehow gotten stuck in a dryer vent. Rachel shared the challenges of teaching during a pandemic that had only recently eased. Chris, once he warmed up, talked about the satisfaction of building things that would stand for generations. Sarah found herself laughing, really laughing, for the first time since the attack. These people, who'd been strangers 6 days ago, felt like old friends. They didn't tiptoe around what had happened, but they didn't dwell on it either. When Emma asked why they'd helped her mommy, Marcus gave a simple answer. Because that's what good people do. They help. After Emma had eaten her weight in pizza and was starting to yawn despite her insistence that she wasn't tired, Nancy returned to take her to bed. Emma hugged each of the Iron Riders, making them promise to come back. "You've got quite a support system," Beth observed once Emma was upstairs. "A lot of survivors don't have that." "I know I'm lucky." Sarah refilled drinks, noting that none of the riders had asked for alcohol. When she mentioned it, Marcus explained, "Club rule, when we're in vest, we don't drink. We represent the Iron Riders, and we represent it sober. Some of us are in recovery anyway." He didn't specify who, and Sarah didn't ask. Plus, we're riding home, safety first. The conversation shifted to heavier topics as the evening wore on. Frank Morris had called Marcus earlier that day with an update. Tyler Simmons, the youngest of the 3 attackers, was cooperating with federal investigators in exchange for a lighter sentence. His information had identified 3 other trafficking cells operating in the region. "He's 19, Rachel said sadly. "Barely more than a kid himself. Makes you wonder how he got involved with people like Martinez." "Poverty, probably," Diana said. "Desperation. Martinez has a history of recruiting young men from disadvantaged backgrounds, promising them money and belonging. Then he uses them until they're arrested or killed." Sarah shivered despite the warm house. "Tyler was the one who covered my mouth. I can still feel his hand sometimes." The room fell quiet. Marcus leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. "Sarah, have you talked to anyone? A counselor?" "I have an appointment Thursday with a trauma therapist, Dr. Patricia Wong in Austin. Nancy found her. Specializes in PTSD and assault survivors." "Good, that's really good." Marcus glanced around at his fellow riders. "I don't talk about this much, but when I came back from Afghanistan, I was a mess. Angry, isolated, self-medicating. It took me 2 years to finally see a therapist at the VA. That decision saved my life. There's no shame in needing help." "None at all," Tommy added. "I've been seeing someone for 3 years. Job like mine, you see things that stick with you. Kids who don't make it out of fires, people beyond saving. You gotta process that stuff, or it eats you alive." The vulnerability in the room was palpable. These tough, capable people who'd ridden to her rescue without hesitation were sharing their own struggles. It made Sarah feel less alone in her nightmares, less weak for needing support. "Can I tell you something I haven't told anyone?" Sarah asked. The words came before she could stop them. "I'm scared to go back to work. Pinewood isn't a big hospital. We don't have security in the parking lot at night. What if it happens again? What if next time there's no one to help?" "Then we fix that," Chris said immediately. "Hospital needs better security, lighting, cameras, regular patrols. I bet if you brought it to administration, especially with what happened, they'd act on it." "That's a good idea," Diana agreed. "I could help draft a proposal if you want. Safety improvements aren't just good for you, they protect all the staff working late shifts." Sarah felt something shift inside her, from helplessness to agency. "I'd like that. I'd really like to make sure this doesn't happen to someone else." The evening wound down around 10, with hugs and promises to stay in touch. Marcus lingered after the others left, helping Sarah clean up the pizza boxes and stack chairs. "You did good tonight," he said. "Opening your home, letting Emma meet us, that took courage. It felt right. You've become important to us somehow. In less than a week, you went from strangers to people I'd call in a crisis. That's what community is. We've got your back, Sarah. Whatever you need going forward, whether it's security recommendations, someone to walk you to your car, or just a friendly voice when the nightmares get bad, we're here." Sarah walked him to the door, where his Harley waited under the streetlight. "Marcus, that daughter of yours, Emily? She's lucky to have a dad like you." His expression flickered with something painful. "I haven't always been there for her the way I should have been, still working on making up for the years I was lost in my own head, but I'm trying. Trying is what matters." After he rode away, Sarah checked on Emma, fast asleep with her stuffed rabbit, then got ready for bed herself. For the first time since the attack, she felt something approaching hope. The world was still dangerous, and she still jumped at unexpected noises, but she wasn't alone in navigating it. Thursday morning, Sarah drove to Austin for her first appointment with Dr. Patricia Wong. The therapist's office was in a converted Victorian house, all warm colors and comfortable furniture designed to put clients at ease. Dr. Wong herself was maybe 50, with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses and a calm demeanor that immediately made Sarah feel less defensive. "Tell me what brings you here," Dr. Wong said after initial pleasantries. Sarah told the story: the parking lot, the three men, the motorcyclists, the aftermath. Dr. Wong listened without interrupting, occasionally making notes, but mostly just being present with Sarah's narrative. "That must have been terrifying," Dr. Wong said when Sarah finished. "How are you coping?" "I don't know. Some days I feel okay, like I'm handling it. Other days I can't leave the house without panicking. I'm scared to go back to work. I have nightmares. But I also feel, I don't know, stronger somehow. Like I survived something that could have destroyed me." Both things can be true simultaneously. Trauma doesn't have to define you, but it does change you. The question is whether that change is growth or limitation. Dr. Wong leaned forward slightly. "What would you like to work toward in our sessions?" Sarah thought about it. "I want to not be scared all the time. I want to feel safe in my own life, and I want to make sure what happened to me helps prevent it from happening to others." Does that make sense? Perfect sense. Those are concrete, achievable goals. We'll work on processing the trauma, developing coping strategies for anxiety and hypervigilance, and building resilience. I also want to explore this last goal, using your experience to help others. That can be incredibly healing, but we need to make sure you're doing it from a place of strength, not obligation. They worked for the full hour, Dr. Wong teaching Sarah grounding techniques for when panic threatened to overwhelm her. By the time Sarah left, she had homework, a journal to track her triggers and responses, breathing exercises to practice daily, and permission to be gentle with herself. On the drive home, Sarah called the hospital administrator, Linda Kowalski, and requested a meeting. Linda agreed immediately, and by Friday afternoon, Sarah was sitting in her office with Diana, presenting a comprehensive security proposal. "We need better lighting in the parking lot," Sarah said, her voice steady despite her nerves. "Security cameras with monitoring, regular patrols during shift changes, and emergency call boxes. What happened to me could happen to any staff member working late." Linda listened, her expression growing increasingly concerned. "Sarah, I had no idea you felt unsafe. Why didn't anyone bring this up before?" "Because nothing had happened before. But now it has, and we can't pretend the risk doesn't exist." Sarah slid a folder across the desk. Diana had helped compile statistics on healthcare worker assaults, recommendations from security consultants, and cost estimates. "This isn't just about me, it's about creating an environment where everyone feels protected." "You're absolutely right." Linda flipped through the documents. "I'll take this to the board next week. In the meantime, I'm authorizing immediate increased security presence for evening and night shifts. And Sarah, when you're ready to come back, we'll make accommodations. Different parking spot, escort to your car, whatever you need." "Thank you," Sarah said, feeling a weight lift. "I'm planning to return in 2 weeks, once I've had more time with my therapist." Walking out of that meeting, Diana squeezed Sarah's shoulder. You just advocated for yourself and every other person who works there. That's powerful. I'm learning from good role models, Sarah replied, thinking of the Iron Riders and their commitment to protecting others. The weekend brought Emma's field trip to the local pumpkin patch, which Sarah had almost forgotten about in the chaos of the past 2 weeks. She volunteered to chaperone, determined not to let fear keep her from being present in her daughter's life. Marcus, hearing about the trip, offered to come along as an extra set of eyes, not hovering just nearby if Sarah needed support. The pumpkin patch was everything October should be: crisp air, golden leaves, rows of orange pumpkins stretching across a field. Emma ran ahead with her classmates, shrieking with delight at the hay ride and corn maze. Sarah watched her daughter, feeling the sharp awareness of how close she'd come to missing all of this. "You're doing great," Marcus said quietly. He stood a few feet away, giving her space but remaining accessible. "I know crowded places are hard right now. I'm managing. The therapist taught me some techniques." Sarah took a deliberate breath, grounding herself in the present, the smell of apple cider, Emma's laughter, the sun on her face. "It helps having someone here who understands." They walked through the pumpkin patch, Emma eventually dragging them both to find the perfect pumpkin, which, after 30 minutes of searching, turned out to be a lopsided specimen with character. Marcus helped carry it to the car, while Emma chatted about carving designs. "Can Marcus help us carve it?" Emma asked. "Please, Mommy?" Sarah glanced at Marcus, who raised his eyebrows in a silent question. "Is this okay?" "If he wants to," Sarah said. "I'd be honored," Marcus replied. That evening, Sarah's kitchen table was covered in newspaper and pumpkin guts. Marcus proved surprisingly artistic, helping Emma create an elaborate design featuring a cat and a moon. Nancy stopped by, ostensibly to drop off a casserole, but really to check on Sarah, and stayed for the carving festivities. "You've been good for my daughter," Nancy said to Marcus quietly, while Emma and Sarah scooped out seeds. "She's been through hell, but she's fighting her way back. Having someone who understands trauma, that's invaluable." "She's stronger than she knows," Marcus said. "But yeah, having people who get it helps. I'm just glad we were in the right place at the right time." Later, after Emma was in bed and Nancy had gone home, Sarah and Marcus sat on the porch with mugs of decaf coffee. The carved pumpkin glowed on the step between them, casting flickering shadows. "Can I ask you something personal?" Sarah said. "Sure. You said you failed at normal life when you came back from deployment. What changed?" Marcus was quiet for a long moment, staring at the pumpkin's flickering candle. "I hit bottom. Lost my marriage, lost my job, nearly lost my relationship with Emily. I was drinking too much, fighting too much, just drowning. Then one night I got into a bar fight and ended up in the hospital. Jack, you met him, was working security there. He recognized the signs because he'd been there himself years earlier. He dragged me to a VA counselor, introduced me to the Iron Riders, and basically refused to let me self-destruct. That's a good friend. The best. Point is, I had to accept that I couldn't do it alone. That needing help wasn't weakness, it was survival. Sounds like you're figuring that out faster than I did." "I don't have a choice. Emma needs me functional." Sarah sipped her coffee. "But also, I don't want to just survive. I want to actually live. I want to take my daughter to pumpkin patches without having panic attacks. I want to go back to work without fear eating me alive. I want to feel like myself again." "You will. It takes time, but you will." Marcus set down his mug. "And in the meantime, you've got people supporting you. Use us, Sarah. That's what we're here for." After Marcus left, Sarah stood on her porch for a long time, watching the quiet street. 2 weeks ago, her world had shattered. Now, piece by piece, she was rebuilding it. Not the same as before, but maybe stronger for the breaking. 3 weeks after the attack, Sarah returned to work. She debated the decision endlessly with Dr. Wong, with Nancy, even with Emma. who'd asked if Mommy had to go back to the place where the bad men were. But ultimately, Sarah knew that avoiding the hospital would give those men power over her life, and she refused to grant them that. The hospital had made good on its promises. Bright LED lights now illuminated the parking lot. Security cameras were visible at every entrance. A guard named Walter Jenkins, a retired police officer with a kind face, patrolled during shift changes and had Sarah's photo so he could specifically watch for her. Linda had assigned Sarah a spot directly under a light and near the entrance. Still, Sarah's hands shook as she pulled into that lot for her first shift back. It was late October now, the air carrying the first real bite of approaching winter. She sat in her car for 5 full minutes, practicing the breathing techniques Dr. Wong had taught her before finally opening the door. "Ms. Mitchell?" Walter appeared seemingly from nowhere, though Sarah realized he must have been watching for her arrival. "I'll walk you in, if that's all right." "Thank you," Sarah managed. Inside, her co-workers greeted her with hugs and careful questions about how she was doing. James Riley, the paramedic who'd treated her that night, had organized a welcome back card that everyone had signed. Her supervisor had lightened her patient load for the first week back, giving her time to readjust. The shift itself was almost normal, the familiar rhythm of checking vitals, administering medications, comforting scared patients and exhausted families. Sarah found herself slipping back into the professional competence she'd built over years of nursing. But every time she looked out a window toward the parking lot, her chest tightened. At 9:45 p.m., almost exactly the time she'd been attacked 3 weeks earlier, Sarah excused herself to the bathroom and had a quiet panic attack in a stall. Her vision narrowed, her breathing came in gasps, and for 3 terrible minutes, she was back in that parking lot with hands grabbing her arms. Then her phone buzzed, a text from Marcus. "First shift back. You've got this. Call if you need to talk." The timing was almost eerie. Had he been watching the clock, knowing this would be hard? Probably. Sarah focused on the phone screen, on the simple message of support, and slowly her breathing evened out. She was in the hospital. She was safe. Walter was outside. Her car was under lights and cameras. The parking lot wasn't the same place it had been 3 weeks ago. She emerged from the bathroom, splashed cold water on her face, and went back to work. At the end of her shift, Walter walked her to her car, chatting casually about his grandkids and his fishing hobby. The normalcy of it helped. Sarah drove home without incident, where Nancy was waiting with Emma, already asleep upstairs. "How was it?" Nancy asked. "Hard, but I did it." Sarah collapsed onto the couch. "I had a panic attack during the shift, but I recovered. I made it through. That's my girl." Nancy hugged her tightly. "Every shift will get a little easier." She was right. Over the next 2 weeks, Sarah's anxiety gradually decreased. She still had moments, sounds that made her jump, shadows that made her heart race, but they became less frequent. She continued seeing Dr. Wong weekly, processing the trauma layer by layer. The nightmares diminished from nightly to a few times a week, then less. The Iron Riders remained a constant presence, not intrusive, but available. Diana invited Sarah and Emma to her house for Thanksgiving, where a dozen club members and their families gathered for a potluck feast. Rachel included Emma in her classroom's pen pal program with a school in another state. Tommy gave Emma a junior firefighter badge and a tour of the fire station. Chris hired Sarah's friend's teenage son for a summer internship. They wove themselves into Sarah's life not as rescuers frozen in that single moment, but as real people with real friendships. Marcus especially became someone Sarah talked to almost daily, sometimes about serious things, sometimes just sharing funny stories about Emma or his daughter Emily or the eccentric customers at his shop. "You know people are going to talk," Nancy observed one evening in mid-November when Marcus had stopped by to help fix Sarah's leaky kitchen faucet. Single woman, single man, spending a lot of time together. Let them talk, Sarah said, surprising herself. Marcus is my friend. Maybe one day he'll be more, maybe not. But I'm not going to avoid a good friendship because of gossip. Good answer. Nancy smiled. For what it's worth, I like him. He's steady, and he looks at you like you hung the moon. Sarah had noticed that too, the way Marcus's expression softened when she entered a room, the careful attention he paid to her comfort, the way he always positioned himself between her and potential threats without making it obvious. Part of her was terrified of starting something romantic so soon after the attack. Another part was intrigued by the possibility. December arrived with unexpected cold, bringing frost to the Texas plains and Christmas decorations to Rosewood's Main Street. The federal case against Martinez and Blake was progressing, with prosecutors calling Sarah in for preparation sessions. Facing what had happened in legal detail was difficult, but Diana accompanied her to every meeting. And slowly, Sarah began to see herself not as a victim, but as a witness, someone who could help bring justice. Tyler Simmons's cooperation had unraveled the trafficking network. 6 other women had been recovered, alive but deeply traumatized. 4 more had been identified as homicide victims. The scale of what Sarah had unknowingly escaped made her nauseous, but it also reinforced her determination to testify. These men destroyed lives, Sarah told the federal prosecutor, a sharp-eyed woman named Jennifer Hayes. If my testimony helps put them away, then something good comes from what happened to me. Your testimony will be crucial, Jennifer confirmed. Martinez is fighting it, but Blake is considering a plea deal. Either way, they're not walking free. Emma, meanwhile, had adopted the Iron Riders as extended family. She made Christmas cards for all of them, including one for Marcus that featured him as a superhero riding a motorcycle through the stars. Marcus framed it and hung it in his shop office. For Christmas, the club organized a toy drive for underprivileged kids in surrounding counties. Emma insisted on donating half her toys, then helping sort donations at the collection site, an old warehouse Marcus's friend owned. Sarah watched her daughter carefully wrap gifts and organize dolls by age range, her little face serious with concentration. She's got your heart, Diana said, coming to stand beside Sarah. Wants to help people, just like her mum. I hope she never has to learn why helping matters the way I did. None of us wanted the lessons we got, but we can choose what we do with them. Diana gestured to the warehouse full of donations, the club members laughing as they worked, the pile of gifts that would brighten Christmas for kids who might otherwise have nothing. We chose this: community, protection, giving back. You're choosing it too. Sarah realized Diana was right. She wasn't just recovering from trauma, she was actively deciding what kind of person she wanted to be in its aftermath. Someone who hid, or someone who stepped forward? The answer had become clear. Christmas Eve found Sarah hosting a gathering at her house, Emma's request. Nancy cooked her famous brisket, Sarah made sides, and a rotating cast of Iron Riders, hospital co-workers and neighbors stopped by throughout the evening. The small house overflowed with warmth and noise, and the kind of chaotic joy that comes from throwing together people who care about each other. Marcus arrived late, covered in grease from an emergency repair job, apologetic and harried. Emma immediately dragged him to see the Christmas tree she'd decorated. Sarah handed him a beer and a plate of food, and he settled into the organized chaos with visible relief. "Rough day?" Sarah asked, sitting beside him once Emma had moved on to showing Rachel her new art supplies. Customer's bike broke down on the highway. Had to go tow it, then work through the evening to get it running for tomorrow. Guy's riding to his mom's place for Christmas. Marcus shrugged. Couldn't leave him stranded. "You're a good man, Marcus Thompson. I do what I can." He looked at her seriously. "Sarah, can I talk to you for a minute?" Privately, her heart jumped. Anxiety or anticipation, she couldn't tell. "Sure. Porch?" Outside, the December air was crisp and clear, stars brilliant overhead. They stood at the railing, their breath fogging in the cold. "I've been thinking," Marcus began, then stopped. Tried again. "These past 2 months, getting to know you and Emma, being part of your life, it's meant a lot to me. More than I expected. It's meant a lot to us too," Sarah said carefully. "I know the timing's complicated. You're still healing, still processing everything, and I don't want to be that guy who mistakes gratitude for something else, or who takes advantage of vulnerability." Marcus turned to face her fully. "But I also don't want to miss something real because I was too cautious. So I'm just going to say it. I have feelings for you, Sarah, real feelings. And if there's any chance you might feel the same way, I'd like to explore that, slowly, at whatever pace you need. But if I'm reading this wrong, tell me now, and we'll stay friends. No weirdness, no pressure." Sarah's pulse raced. She'd known this was coming, had felt the pull between them growing stronger. Dr. Wong had warned her about rebound relationships and trauma bonding, about the importance of healing independently before committing to someone new. But she'd also said that sometimes the person who helps you through darkness becomes someone worth keeping in the light. "I have feelings for you too," Sarah admitted. "I'm scared, Marcus. Scared of moving too fast, scared of dragging you into my mess, scared of—" "Hey." He took her hands gently, mindful of where bruises had once been. "Scared is okay. We go slow. We keep talking. You keep seeing Dr. Wong. I keep handling my own stuff. We figure it out together, or we figure out we're better as friends. Either way, I'm not going anywhere." Sarah looked up at this man who'd appeared in her darkest moment and stayed through her recovery, who made Emma laugh and respected Nancy's protective hovering and never made Sarah feel weak for having panic attacks or nightmares, who'd shown her that strength came in unexpected packages and that community mattered more than pride. "Okay," she said, "let's try. Slow, but let's try." Marcus smiled, a genuine, brilliant smile that transformed his usually serious face. Yeah. He kissed her then, soft and careful and sweet. Through the window, Sarah could see Emma dancing with Nancy to Christmas music, see the warm glow of her home filled with people who cared. 2 months ago, she'd been seconds from losing all of this. Now she was choosing to rebuild not just what she'd had, but something even better. When they went back inside, Emma took one look at their linked hands and squealed. "Does this mean Marcus is your boyfriend?" "It means we're figuring things out," Sarah said diplomatically. "It means yes," Marcus stage whispered to Emma, making her giggle. Nancy caught Sarah's eye across the room and gave a small, approving nod. Whatever came next, Sarah knew she had the foundation to handle it. Therapy, community, people who loved her, and a new understanding of her own resilience. The trauma would always be part of her story, but it wouldn't be the only part. January arrived with unusual warmth, Texas winter refusing to fully commit. Sarah had returned to full-time work, her confidence growing with each shift. The security improvements at Pinewood had become a model, with other hospitals in the region adopting similar measures. Linda Kowalski had even asked Sarah to speak at a healthcare safety conference in March, an invitation Sarah had accepted despite her nervousness about public speaking. The federal case was scheduled for trial in February, though Jennifer Hayes warned it might be pushed back. Connor Blake had accepted a plea deal, agreeing to testify against Martinez in exchange for 30 years, instead of life without parole. Tyler Simmons had already been sentenced to 15 years with credit for cooperation. But Martinez refused to negotiate, insisting on his innocence despite overwhelming evidence. "He thinks he can intimidate you out of testifying," Jennifer told Sarah during a preparation session in late January. Diana sat beside Sarah, taking notes. "He's going to have his attorney paint you as unreliable, confused, traumatized to the point of false memories," You need to be ready for that." "I'm ready," Sarah said firmly. "I know what happened. I know what he did." Jennifer nodded approvingly. "Good. We'll do mock testimony next week. Really prepare you for cross-examination. It won't be pleasant, but you can handle it." Sarah believed her. The woman who'd been attacked in that parking lot 3 months ago might have crumbled under aggressive questioning, but the woman she'd become, forged through therapy and community and her own determination, was stronger than that. Her relationship with Marcus deepened slowly, exactly as they'd promised. They went on actual dates. Dinner at Rosie's, a movie in the next town over, a day trip to Austin with Emma. He met Emma's father David when he came to town, the two men sizing each other up before reaching a wary respect. David pulled Sarah aside afterward and said, "He's good for you. Emma loves him. I approve for what it's worth." It was worth something. David's blessing meant Emma wouldn't be caught in any awkward custody tensions. Marcus introduced Sarah to his daughter Emily, a bright 25-year-old working as a teacher in Houston. Emily was cautious at first, understandable given her father's rocky past, but warmed up when she saw how genuinely happy Marcus was. Over brunch in Houston, Emily told Sarah stories about her dad's transformation from angry veteran to community pillar. "He used to be so lost," Emily said. "Angry all the time, drinking too much. I was scared of him sometimes, which killed me because I loved him so much. Then he found the club, found purpose. The dad I have now is the one I always knew was in there somewhere. He talks about you constantly," Sarah said. "How proud he is of you." "I'm proud of him too, and I'm glad he found you." Emily smiled. "Just be patient with him when he gets overprotective. It's the military training. He can't help but scan for threats." Sarah understood that. She did the same thing now, constantly aware of exits and potential dangers. "Doctor," Wong said it was normal, a survival instinct that would fade with time but might never disappear completely. February brought the trial. Roberto Martinez was charged federally with kidnapping conspiracy, human trafficking, and weapons violations. Connor Blake had already pled guilty to the same charges. Tyler Simmons' cooperation had helped identify the larger network, leading to 17 additional arrests across 3 states. Sarah had to testify on a cold Wednesday morning. Marcus took the day off to accompany her to the federal courthouse in Austin, along with Diana and Nancy. Emma stayed with David in Dallas for the week, spared the details of what her mother was facing. The courthouse was imposing, all marble and authority. Jennifer Hayes met them outside the courtroom, her expression confident. "You've got this, Sarah. Just tell the truth. Stay calm, and look at the jury when you speak. Martinez's attorney will try to rattle you, but remember, you're not on trial. He is." Sarah entered the courtroom, feeling Marcus's presence behind her. Diana's steady calm. Nancy's fierce love. The jury, 7 women, 5 men, watched her take the stand. Martinez sat at the defense table, his scarred face impassive. He'd lost weight in jail, his eyes harder than she remembered. She didn't flinch. Jennifer led her through the direct examination. What happened that night, step by step. Sarah spoke clearly, describing the parking lot, the 3 men emerging, the grabbing and dragging, the van with its sinister supplies. She described her terror, her certainty that she was going to disappear, and then the arrival of the motorcyclists. "They saved my life," Sarah said, looking at the jury. "If the Iron Riders hadn't stopped when they saw what was happening, I wouldn't be here. I'd be a statistic, a missing person. Roberto Martinez would have sold me to the highest bidder, and my daughter would have grown up without a mother." The defense attorney, a slick man named Kenneth Price, tried to poke holes during cross-examination. "Ms. Mitchell, you just worked a 12-hour shift, correct? You were exhausted." "I was tired, yes, but I wasn't so tired I imagined 3 men dragging me toward a van." The parking lot was dimly lit. Could you really see their faces clearly? I saw Martinez's scar in detail. I felt his hands on my wrist. I heard Tyler say his name. There's no confusion in my memory. You've been in therapy since the incident. Isn't it possible your therapist has influenced your memories, created false details? My therapist has helped me process trauma, not create fiction. Everything I've testified to is exactly what happened. Price pushed harder, trying to suggest she'd misidentified Martinez, that maybe she'd been confused in the chaos. But Sarah remained steady, backed by security footage from the hospital showing the three men loitering before the attack, by forensic evidence from the van, by Blake's testimony that Martinez had planned the abduction. After 45 minutes, Price gave up. Sarah stepped down, her legs shaking but her testimony complete. "You were incredible," Jennifer said during the lunch recess. "Composed, credible, unshakable." The jury believed every word. The trial lasted 4 more days. Blake testified, detailing the trafficking operation and Martinez's role as a recruiter and transporter. 2 of the women who'd been recovered testified via video, their faces obscured, describing the hell they'd endured. FBI agents presented evidence of Martinez's communications with the trafficking network's leaders. The case was airtight. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. When they returned, their verdict was unanimous on all counts. Guilty. Martinez's face twisted with rage as the verdict was read. He shouted something in Spanish, cut off by the judge's gavel. He'd face life in federal prison without possibility of parole. Essentially, a death sentence for a man in his mid-40s. Outside the courthouse, Sarah stood with Jennifer and the other survivors who'd come to see justice served. Cameras had gathered. This was a major case, the dismantling of a significant trafficking operation. "Any statement?" a reporter called. Sarah hadn't planned to speak, but she found herself stepping forward. "Roberto Martinez and men like him prey on vulnerability. They count on people being alone, being scared, being silent. But I wasn't alone that night. The Iron Riders Motorcycle Club saw someone in trouble and acted. They didn't look away, didn't assume someone else would handle it, didn't let fear stop them from doing the right thing. Because of them, I'm alive. Because of them, this trafficking network was exposed. We all have a responsibility to watch out for each other, to be that person who stops when they see something wrong. That's how we prevent monsters like Martinez from destroying more lives." The clip went viral. By evening, Sarah's impromptu speech had been viewed hundreds of thousands of times, shared across social media with comments praising both her courage and the Iron Riders' intervention. The club received dozens of inquiries from people wanting to join or start similar community protection initiatives. Marcus called Sarah that evening, his voice warm with pride. "You were amazing. That speech, Sarah, you turned your trauma into a call to action. You inspired people. I just said what I felt, that we need more people like you in the club. We need more people like you, survivors who refuse to stay silent, who fight back even when it's scary. You're remarkable, you know that?" Sarah smiled, curled on her couch with a mug of tea. Nancy had finally gone home after fussing for hours. Emma was still with David, but would return tomorrow. The house felt peaceful. "I'm just doing what I need to do." That's what makes it remarkable. Spring arrived gradually, March bringing wildflowers to the Texas plains. Sarah spoke at the Healthcare Safety Conference, sharing her story and the security improvements Pinewood had implemented. 3 other hospitals immediately committed to similar changes. A state representative reached out about drafting legislation to require certain safety measures at medical facilities, what he called Sarah's Law. The Iron Riders expanded their community outreach, partnering with schools and churches to teach awareness and self-defense. Diana started a legal clinic helping assault survivors navigate the criminal justice system. Marcus's auto shop began offering free basic motorcycle maintenance classes for women, encouraging them to ride and take up space. Sarah's relationship with Marcus continued to deepen. They talked about the future carefully. He was cautious about moving too quickly, aware of Emma's needs and Sarah's healing timeline. But by April, he was spending most nights at Sarah's house, leaving early enough that Emma thought he was just coming by for breakfast. It was a fiction neither Sarah nor Nancy bothered to correct. "When are you going to ask him to officially move in?" Nancy asked one Saturday while they worked in Sarah's garden, planting tomatoes and peppers. "We're talking about it. Maybe this summer. I want Emma to have time to adjust." Sarah sat back on her heels, surveying their work. "Is it crazy that I'm this happy? 6 months ago, I thought my life was over. Now I'm dating a wonderful man. My daughter's thriving. I'm making a difference at work and in the community. It feels almost too good." "You earned this happiness," Nancy said firmly. "You survived something horrific, did the work to heal, chose to help others instead of retreating into fear. This isn't luck, sweetheart. This is what you built." In May, Sarah received a letter from one of the women who'd been rescued from the trafficking network. A 23-year-old named Jennifer Martinez, no relation, who'd been missing for 8 months. The letter was brief, but powerful. "Dear Sarah, I saw your testimony on the news. Thank you for being brave enough to speak up, because you fought back, because those motorcyclists stopped. The FBI found the network that took me. I'm back with my family now. I'm getting help. I don't know if I'll ever be the person I was before, but I'm alive to try. That's because of you. Thank you for being strong enough to testify, for not letting fear silence you. You saved more people than you know." With gratitude, Jennifer Sarah kept that letter in her nightstand, rereading it whenever doubt crept in about whether the pain of testifying had been worth it. It had been worth it. Every difficult moment, every nightmare, every time she'd forced herself to be brave despite terror, it had mattered. June brought Emma's 9th birthday, celebrated with a party at the house that somehow included half the Iron Riders, Emma's entire class, and what seemed like everyone Sarah and Nancy had ever met. Marcus helped orchestrate an elaborate scavenger hunt that had kids running through the yard searching for clues. Diana baked a spectacular cake shaped like a motorcycle. Jack gave Emma a junior mechanic's tool set, which thrilled her far more than the dolls well-meaning relatives had sent. As the party wound down and the last guests trickled away, Sarah found herself on the porch with Marcus, watching Emma show Nancy her birthday haul. "I've been thinking," Marcus said. "Dangerous habit," Sarah teased. "Hush. I've been thinking about the future. About us, Emma, building something permanent." He turned to face her, suddenly serious. "I love you, Sarah Mitchell. I love your strength, your compassion, the way you've transformed pain into purpose. I love Emma like she's my own. I love the life we're building together, and I know it's only been 6 months since we officially started dating, but we've been through things that bond people faster than years of normal circumstances." Sarah's heart pounded. "Marcus, I'm not proposing. Not yet, anyway. I know we need more time, but I wanted you to know I'm in this. Fully, completely in this. Whatever comes next, I'm choosing you and Emma. When you're ready, when the time's right, I want to marry you. I want us to be a family officially, but there's no pressure, no timeline. Just know that's where my heart is." Tears pricked Sarah's eyes, happy tears this time. "I love you too, and I want that future. Not today, not tomorrow, but someday. When Emma's ready, when we've had more time to build our foundation. But yes, that's where I see this going too." They kissed as the sun set over Rosewood, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Inside, Emma's laughter rang out. the sound of childhood joy, unaware of how close it had come to being silenced. Sarah had been a victim for one terrible night, but she'd become a survivor, an advocate, a woman who refused to let darkness define her. The motorcyclists had shown up when she needed them most, but in the end, Sarah had saved herself through therapy, community, determination, and the simple choice to keep moving forward. Martinez was in prison for life. Blake and Tyler Simmons would serve decades. The trafficking network was dismantled. 6 women were returned to their families. Hospital parking lots across Texas were safer. And Sarah was alive, thriving, loved. No one had escaped justice. And no one would escape Sarah's determination to make sure her story prevented others from experiencing the same terror. She looked at Marcus, at Emma, visible through the window, at the home they were building together. This was her life now, not defined by the worst thing that had happened to her, but by everything she'd chosen to become afterward. The motorcyclists had shown up that October night and changed everything. But Sarah had shown up every day since, choosing healing over bitterness, community over isolation, love over fear. That was the real story, and it was just beginning.